Hello YouTubers, this is Gold Standard Z0924 coming at you with another video. So for the past couple of weeks, I've just kind of been burned out of ideas. It's not that, I'm busy or anything, but I've just been kind of running out of ideas. I've just been kind of struggling to think of other topics I want to really discuss. And you know, um this is not going to be about, current wrestling events or WrestleMania. But this is just going to be kind of a new set of wrestling video series that I'll be doing. It's going to be called Wrestling Reimagining. Basically, what that is kind of a series of what ifs in terms of wrestling, and also you fantasy booking. I've been doing a couple fantasy booking here and there, once in the blue moon. So that's going to be kind of my new topic when it comes to that sort of thing. So be on the lookout when you see that in the title of the video up above. So yeah, so you're gonna see a lot of like kind of what ifs and what happened if this sort of incident happened differently, or what you would have done to change something. That's gonna be kind of like the purpose of wrestling reimagining. Um, yeah, so I know I've been creating a lot of new series here and there, but I'm hoping this is going to be kind of like something I'll be doing here on out. Um, yeah, so Wrestling Reimagining is going to be the new name. So to kind of kick things off, I want to talk about a particular crossover athlete. And what I mean by crossover is a particular athlete who has not only wrestled but also done other stuff outside of wrestling. And he's been known for being for his contributions in mixed martial arts. And he ended up going over to pro wrestling by ended up signing a contract with the WWE in 1997. And that particular wrestler is none other than Ken Shamrock. So, Ken Shamrock, he came in 97. He was the special guest referee for the infamous Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart feud. And that would be, a submission match, hardcore rules, anything goes. One of the most iconic pro wrestling matches, not only in WrestleMania history, but also of pro wrestling, period. And, and it's just the match itself, his involvement in it, and, the impact it had in terms of the direction WWE was going, was very significant. It really helped him in the long run. And, you also factor in the infamous double turn, where Bret and Stone Cold switched from face to heel. So, which created an interesting dynamic. And, Stone Cold would go on to become this sympathetic babyface that, even though he lost the match, the announcers make it known that Stone Cold uh, never asked that he gave up or anything like that. So, and then Shamrock ended up getting Bret Hart out of Stone Cold, just preventing Bret from continuing to attack Austin after the match. So yeah, so that was kind of a way to jumpstart Shamrock's role in the WWE. He wrestled there for about 2 years, from '97 to '99. Um, just a very underrated WWE wrestler, if you want to say, or pro wrestler. But when people think of the Attitude Era, they normally think of the usual suspects when it comes to that particular time frame. You have your main eventers like Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind, Kane, and among other wrestlers. And out of all the other wrestlers that were around, Ken Shamrock was one of those that I guess you could say he didn't really get a lot of credit. But he did have a very moderately successful run in WWE, despite that short length that he had. Um, and Shamrock, during that course of time, he won the Intercontinental title. He was one half of the tag team champions with the late Big Boss Man. Lord rest his soul. Um, He won the 1998 King of the Ring, so he's done enough to pay his dues in that company. And people could say what they want about pro wrestling being fake and predetermined, blah blah blah. Same old story. But there's no denying just how much influence it had for the WWE. And he came in WWE, one of the first crossover crossover celebrities to come from another realm in terms of pop culture. Going from mixed martial arts, and now he's like a pro wrestler. So and he worked that style really well, I will say. And he even popularized the tap out that we end up seeing with a lot of other submission wrestlers going forward. Anytime he locks in that ankle lock, his opponents, rather than just telling the ref that he quit, he would just slap, tap his hand onto the ring canvas, and just acknowledging that they gave up, and passing, throwing in the towel, or at least their interpretation of that. And before it, they had to, they had to answer the ref to submit, and that wasn't until Shamrock came in that WWE started to have opponents acknowledging, having their opponents tap out to a submission move rather than just saying they gave up and stuff. So it's kind of ironic how things came out. Um, yeah, so Shamrock, like I said, doesn't really get a whole lot of credit, but and it's not necessarily saying that he flopped in the WWE, because he actually, he did a lot. He did um, a good chunk of things in WWE that continue forth, and um, just changing what WWE has been going through in recent years. I guess if you want to put it that. Um, Now, he ended up, Ken Shamrock was just, feuded with a lot of guys that would go on to become world champions. The Rock, McFoley, Triple H. Even fought against other main eventers like Vader, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. Guys that were already established by that point. So, now to kind of get into what I want to really discuss. Just going into like 1999. So, yeah, he was involved. He ended up joining the corporation as a heel, and eventually break away from the corporation, and then, um, join the short-lived Union stable. And then once the whole corporate ministry Union angle kind of phased out, Shamrock spent the last couple months feuding with guys like Steve Blackman and the recently debuting Chris Jericho. So yeah, so I believe they were supposed to have a match at Unforgiven, but I don't believe, if memory serves me right, that the match did not take place, because I believe Shamrock somewhere during the later half of '99 got injured, and I think X Pac ended up taking over for that role. Um, yeah, so the feud never really came into fruition, and eventually Shamrock was released from his WWE contract, um, and he spent some time in MMA, and then he went to TNA and became the first TNA World Champion, and then he's back to doing MMA again. So yeah, so this kind of brings me up to this question. What would have happened if Shamrock had stayed in WWE? Um, so if I think that, if, just hypothetically, if Ken Shamrock had not gotten hurt, and had he stuck around WWE a little longer than he did, so I think my guess would be is that um, Ken Shamrock would continue his feud with Chris Jericho. That maybe they could like trade victories here and there on pay per view, and maybe on weekly TV like Raw or SmackDown. Um, and then after that, he could have probably could have played a part in the whole McMahon Helmsley saga. And Stephanie McMahon by this point had She had joined forces with Triple H and a reunited DX who have turned heel by this point, and they've been ruling the WWE, and they're him and Stephanie are responsible for management and making the matches. Um, so what I'm getting here is Shamrock, you know he probably would have had some involvement in that whole angle, and then maybe he could have feuded with some other guys, especially the influx of WCW and ECW wrestlers. He could have maybe feuded with the Radicals as a mid card feud. Guys like Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, um, obviously Perry Saturn. I can't rule him out. Maybe he could have feuded with Taz. He was just um, coming off of ECW, very hot. Very heavy momentum. Royal Rumble 2000. How cool that would have been to get Shamrock and Taz. They could have had some beef going into WrestleMania 2000. Um, the Human Suplex Machine versus the World's Dangerous Man. Both those guys, very known for their strong style, hardcore wrestling ability. I guess you could say it that. Taz, just debuting, like I said. Both of them are submissionless. How could I forget about that? Taz had the Taz mission. Ken Shamrock had obviously had the ankle lock. Um, you know, um, that would have been pretty cool. Um, Man, there was also something else I'm missing. Taz could also bring up the fact that even though you Shamrock may have uh, came into the WWF and um, popularized the tapping out. Taz could also maybe feel like he's not given enough credit, and he was the guy that the first guy that made his opponents tap out and not Shamrock. Something along those lines. Um, Maybe that could have been the theme of the feud. Um, yeah, so I probably could have worded it out a little differently, but just the whole idea of just these two um, submissionists really ripping each other apart. And that could have been like the motivation for the fans to kind of invest in this feud. So I think that could have been pretty cool. Um, and also another wrestler he could have feuded, Kurt Angle, one of the most popular ones that spring to mind. Um, yeah, that could have been really cool. Kurt Angle had just came in WWE towards the end of '99, so it was a little shortly after Shamrock had um, been taken off WWE TV. Um, yeah, so Kurt Angle was coming up on the rise and winning the European and Intercontinental titles, won the 2000 King of the Ring, and then winning the World Champion, winning the World Title by the end of 2000. Yeah, so I think they could have used that to kind of continue to put over Kurt Angle, but also put over Shamrock. So maybe they could have had a feud, and then maybe WrestleMania 17 comes, and along the way you have Kurt Angle trying to mock Ken Shamrock, and um, maybe at some point Kurt Angle could have started using the ankle lock submission that he ended up doing. Just kind of use it as to kind of mock Shamrock, but eventually he would use that as his finishing move from here on out. So I could have easily imagined maybe an Angle Shamrock feud. Yeah, that also kind of brought to my idea. So I was like looking at like a message forum, and that kind of got me the inspiration to make that video, especially that particular dream match. Um, yeah, so as much as it pains to take away the Angle Benoit match, I think Angle Shamrock could have been very interesting, and just the dynamic of the feud, and both of them having, Kurt Angle had an amateur wrestling background. I'm not sure about Shamrock. I think it was kind of getting the groove of things in terms of the wrestling aspect. Um, yeah, so that could have been pretty cool. Um, I don't know what role he would have played during the invasion angle. Um, especially after WWE bought out WCW and ECW. Um, and I think he would have eventually leave WWE or maybe get released or ask for his release. Probably go to TNA for a bit like he did, and then maybe call it quits and go back to MMA. Um, yeah, so I think that's kind of just my just a kind of a theory or a hypothesis to kind of determine what would have happened if Ken Shamrock had stuck around for in pro wrestling for a little bit, especially WWE, and it just would have opened up many interesting feuds during the later half of the Attitude Era. So yeah, so that's kind of how that would have probably my prediction. But I'm sure there are other people that probably think differently. Um, but it's kind of interesting to kind of use your imagination because it's brings a lot of interest in a way. So yeah, so that's really my conclusion of the first entry into the Wrestling Reimagining series. I hope you enjoy it. Would you like me to do more of these? So yeah, just leave your comment down in the comment section below, or um, you know, do what you do usually. So that's just really my thoughts on Ken Shamrock and just a series of what ifs had things turn out differently the way they did. So like I said, I hope you liked it, and yeah. So till next time, this is the conclusion, and Gold Standard 0092 Far signing out.